Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
This is Bloomberg Businessweek with Carol Massar and Tim Stenovec on Bloomberg Radio.
Hey, you're looking good. Wow, so good. Look here.
All right, everybody, it is official. Rhone, known for its apparel line for men. It's been around since 2014. Now, backed by Blackstone executive David Blitzer, former hedge fund manager Gabe Plotkin, and ex-football star Tim Tebow, and more. And now, some might finally say, I will say, finally out with the women's line. The line went live online for early access yesterday, fully launching next week. Back with us, someone well known to our audience. He's been joining us since the very beginning. Nate Checketts, co-founder and CEO of Rhone, right here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker studio. It does feel like family. We've been watching you on this ride. First of all, how are you?
I'm doing great. I mean, I feel like, Carol, you manifested this because the first interview, you were like, okay, so when are you going to do women's?
Because it was such great stuff.
Yeah, no, we are so excited.
I wear your men's shirts.
We are so excited to bring this to the market, and the initial reaction's been unbelievable. So
why so long?
Yeah,
Wait, I just got to ask you, why
ask.
so long? Sorry, Tim.
Well, we did a capsule collection back in 2019 on International Women's Day,
Right.
and the thought was, okay, this will be a little test. We'll see how the market reacts to it. And it went well, and then of course we have a global pandemic the next year, so we decided not to anniversary it.
Yeah.
We pulled back, and then really we made the decision 2.5 years ago, okay, we need to do this, but let's do it the right way. Let's think through every aspect, and it impacts everything from store layout to mannequins to models to the brand marketing. How are you shifting the message? So we really brought in best-in-class talent across every aspect of the business, and starting most importantly with the product. And it just takes a while to do it right.
Is it hard from a communications perspective because you've been known for a decade as being a place for men, and perhaps customers might walk by a store and say, well, I'm not going to go in there because they don't have product necessarily for me?
Yeah, I think that has been the brand marketing challenge. And I think if you look at the industry, there are certainly brands who have done this very well, shifted from men's to women's or women's into men's. But then there have been brands who have taken some big missteps in that. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we were adamant about from the beginning is this is not taking our men's product and creating women's product. This is taking our customer, putting her at the center of the journey, and making product uniquely for her, unique fabrications, unique fits, unique cuts. And that it can be, the lines can be complementary, but they're not meant to be, symmetrical.
How is it more difficult in terms of creating a women's line versus a men's line?
There's certainly a lot more competition.
Yeah.
And I think there's more pressure to have newness and be on trend and fashion. We joke in the men's space, it's like, well, make sure you have black, navy, and gray and you're fine. But even the men's space has evolved over the last several years, and men are more kind of fashion forward and leaning into trend and style. So we brought in really a best-in-class team on the merchandising and the styling and the design side, and we're really seeing it on the initial reaction. We launched an early access yesterday, and in the first day we started breaking on a couple of styles, meaning we were selling out of a few key sizes, which we had not anticipated to happen for the first 4 weeks. So the reaction has been just unbelievable.
What's the ultimate goal for revenue mix for this? Do you want this to be 50-50? Do you want women to be 60-40?
No, we've done a 3-year model, and we see a path to getting the brand to a 50-50 mix. Women are obviously more prolific shoppers than men. They're just better at it. They know.
Stop that! I hear that at home.
they know what they want, and they're willing to lean in and try new things. I think the challenge is if you can get a male customer, you can keep him generally a lot longer. He tends to go back to what he knows and likes. He's harder to get.
That's men are lazy.
Yep. That's a good interpretation.
Well, we know what we like.
You tend to like what you like.
Exactly.
Right?
But women, you have to earn that. You have to earn that next purchase every single time, and we take that seriously. So to us, it starts at the fabric level, the quality of what we do. And I think as we put everything from our fit model to our actual fashion models, they've said, they work with every brand in the market, and they're like, this is the softest, best fabric I've ever felt. So we think we're doing something right.
How do you go after getting the female customer, women customers versus men? Like, I'm curious, what was your approach?
Well, we have a slight advantage here versus a new brand, which is we already have a big database of women. 30% of our men's product was being purchased by women, which is about the inverse of some of the big public, more female-led brands.
Right.
It's usually like the opposite of that, but we had a database of active female shoppers. And then we've just been very strategic about going out, targeting who we think she is on social, building up some anticipation, some great PR. We've had a lot of incredible press. And this is not a 1 month thing. This is we've learned in 10 years, you've got to keep consistent.
Yeah.
No shortage of this type of apparel for women out there.
No.
I mean, it's weird to say the OG, it's not really even Lululemon, but you have Lululemon, you have Athleta, you have Viore out there. Yep. How do you differentiate? How do you make this distinct? How do you build this brand from the ground up?
I think one of the things that we have really prided ourselves on as we built this line is almost every active brand is based on the West Coast. And there is definitely a West Coast aesthetic. And what I've said internally is, since when was New York not the fashion capital of the world? So we try and bring a New York aesthetic and trend and focus into active. But we start with a root of performance at the center of what we do versus taking kind of a ready to wear and then trying to use active fabrics. We combine the best of both worlds to kind of bring that to the market. And I think the other big focus for us is, how do we make her, powerful, strong, independent? We think a lot of these brands look the same because it's all yoga, endless hours of yoga loops, but we think our customer maybe she's sneaking yoga in 15, 20 minutes, and she's working hard, she's taking care of people, she's strong, she's independent, and we want to position her that way versus, you've got 2 hours in a yoga studio to do whatever you want, because none of our customers live that way.
Well, it's interesting because as someone who's done yoga for a lot of years, I mean, there are yoga clothes, but they look like yoga clothes. I'm not dissing them or anything. Love them. They're really comfortable. But there's a professionality. Is that a professionalism? I guess. Sorry, making up words as I go. But a professional aspect to the things that you guys do that look, it's just different.
Yeah, we think about it as the difference of athleisure is obviously a term that has gained a lot of importance in the market.
But I almost think
the way we think about athleisure is it's made to look athletic, but you can't actually work out in it.
Yeah.
So we call it performance lifestyle, which is you can do anything in our clothes. I've run a marathon in our dress shirt. You can literally do anything, but you're going to look professional when you wear it.
Is that the same when it comes to the women's line? I mean, the more active formal line that you developed for men's came a little later than that first activewear stuff. Are you following a similar timeline, or are you going to kind of release everything right now?
No, we're following a very similar flow, which is let's root ourselves in performance. So the initial line you'll see is very active, focused, a lot of course to court. You may have heard we signed the LPGA as we're the official on-course apparel partner there. So you'll see us on a lot of green grass accounts, tennis courts, pickleball courts, and then a lot of the lifestyle will start to be added in afterwards.
So can we assume at some point, and I know we've got more time to come back, but suits, like a suit that is kind of the casual, but
do it for men.
Yeah, you'll see in some of the marketing, there's a lot of really exciting stuff that I think the professional woman will feel very comfortable wearing into the workplace.
Do you still have fun doing this?
Oh my gosh, I'm having the most fun I've ever had right now. It's 10 years, and certainly I've had periods of founder burnout, but I think since we took back full control of the business and we really kind of started to chart our own destiny, it just changed the way we feel about it.
You took back full control 18 months ago, roughly.
Yep.
Didn't make it public, though, until just last fall.
Yeah.
Give us an update on the business since taking full control.
Well, last year was our biggest absolute growth year ever. And the business is growing almost twice as fast this year.
Yeah.
So we feel really encouraged about that decision and the team that we've put into place and the investment in people. And, we have big growth goals. So we still feel like we're in the early innings of where this can go. But it's been a journey, 10 years.
We're talking with Nate Checketts, co-founder and CEO of Rhone, still in studio with us. So expanding into women, you still talk about growth going forward. 10 years in, what's the next 10 years? Like, how do you think about it?
Yeah. Well,
Sorry, no pressure.
I think the thing that I am most excited about is we have, from the beginning of our customer journey, we have focused on what we call mental fitness, which is really just an emphasis on mental health, taking care of yourself both physically and mentally. When we came into the active market, you would see all of these marketing messages of you're an athlete, lift more weight, run faster, jump higher. And we think there's such a missing aspect of recovery and taking care of yourself and the space between your ears. And that is a very unique problem in the men's market. So it was an easy area to focus on. But everybody needs to talk about this. And what's great is the female customer is already naturally so much better at talking about it. So doing this together with our team has been really, really helpful and powerful. So what I'm most excited about for the next 10 years is to be able to supercharge that. And so we've got some big, exciting plans in terms of how we're going to do that, how we're going to bring that to the market, and some of the unique things that we think about being a wellness company first that just happens to sell clothes.
Wow.
Was that in your ethos from the very beginning, or did that happen? Did that kind of transition happen over the pandemic? And you've spoken to us recently at length about the challenges that the company faced, that you guys faced during the pandemic.
Yeah, it has been part of the DNA from the beginning. I think during the pandemic, we were able to crystallize what that mission was. And part of it was having my own, crisis going through some of that with the pandemic. But we have always believed that wellness is much more than aesthetic, physical fitness, which is really where I think most of these brands focus on, with a hyper level of focus on professional athlete endorsements. We just love this idea that teaching people how to take care of themselves is the best way to feel good. And part of that is having a uniform that you feel excited and energized, but also enabling and empowering the conversation. We've hosted hundreds of these events that we call mind and muscle events, which are 25-minute body weight workouts followed by a group discussion, which is really like a group therapy conversation. And that format exists in Alcoholics Anonymous. It exists in a number of different formats, but it's been so successful in men's, and we've had groundbreaking moments with so many guys, and it just enables them to feel comfortable talking about these things. It's my passion. It's the thing that gets me the most excited. And yes, I think we make the best clothes in our category and the best clothes in our market. That enables us to have a megaphone. And so we've got to grow the size of our megaphone to have the level of impact that we want. But our growth goal is to be $1 billion revenue business and impact 100 million lives through our education.
It's fascinating to hear you say, thinking of yourself, I mean, like you said, it's from the beginning, but as a wellness company, kind of with clothes attached, if you will. I mean, how else is it a case that there are other offerings, Nate, that you eventually offer to your customers even more so?
That's the goal. From the beginning, we had an online journal that we called The Pursuit, which focused a lot on this, bringing world-class experts to the table, sharing that content. But what we found is that this idea of, you guys are in the content business, you know how hard it is.
Yeah.
And so we were competing against advertised-driven content engines, and this was something that we were doing on the side. So now we've taken that back in-house and figured out how to do this in a way that we think is sustainable and meeting the customer where they're at, in the form of video content and social first content versus written content. And then also live events and doing, leaning more into that I think will be really powerful.
Can you give us an update on retail locations? Because one thing that we talked about with you last time you were here was growth of retail in a time when we're seeing other companies pull back. Yeah. And I'm wondering how aggressive you're being this year when it comes to that retail footprint, and what portion right now comes from e-commerce versus those brick and mortars.
Retail has been our fastest growing channel the last 2 years on a percent basis. And I think it's a channel we certainly believe in. We are slowing that down this year because of the women's launch. As you can imagine, it changes the layout of the store, the size of the store,
Right.
the mannequins, the hangers, the training of the staff, the selection of the staff. Like, there's just so many considerations. So we kind of want to absorb and
Because every store has to have a retrofit, right?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
we're retrofitting all 15 stores.
Yeah.
We've kind of done that work, brought in, the right people from a visual merchandising standpoint. But our store plan going forward is as aggressive as it was in 2023. And we think that these stores are really important, especially for our brand message, because you have to meet people where they are, and meeting people in person and physically. We've all learned the importance of that over the last several years. So we're leaning into that and doing it the right way. We're going to be highly selective. There are certainly a lot of brands in our space that, because of their capital stack and what they need to achieve, they're
Yeah.
juicing their revenue numbers by opening as many stores as possible, and in some cases overpaying for real estate, which is going to be tough in 3 to 5 years when those rates, don't justify the sales figures. We're not taking that tactic. We're being really thoughtful, but we're gonna, our store count will be more than 2x by 2026.
Forgive me, and I should know this. Wholesale, you guys don't want...
We do have some
a
wholesale.
little bit,
Yeah,
right?
we've got some great partners in the market. We have a high focus on specialty accounts, green grass accounts. We're
Okay.
in some of the best golf and country clubs.
Productive for you guys, or is it just...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a great business model. You can get carried away when your wholesale account is driven by majors. For us, it's been about 20% of the business the last 2 years, so it's small.
Equinox was an early partner.
Yeah.
Equinox was
Still
an
a
early
partner?
partner, still a
That's-
partner, and we love that type of account, because generally if you walk into an Equinox and you buy shorts, it's because you forgot shorts. Nobody's like, hey, you know what, I'm going to go have that be my retail experience, or I would say that's the minority, but
You just do it.
it's perfect, and it's a great way for people to discover the brand and the product.
You don't
right.
want to use the gym loaner shorts.
All right, so here I go, Nate. Kids?
Yeah, I won't say never. My wife's been begging for that from the beginning, but I think she'll give me a minute, because
Sorry.
Wait, just to clarify, you have kids already. You're talking about a kid's line.
Kids line.
Kids line.
Okay.
Yeah, fair. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, no problem.
But yeah, so you never know. But I surprised my wife on the day that we launched, and I had just flown in from Asia. I arrived at 3 a.m. and I set up a room in our house with every single one of the products for her, and then I brought her in and surprised her. And so I think she'll give me a year off before bothering me about kids again.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Nate, always great to check in with you. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
We
Great
look
seeing
forward
you
to
guys.
hearing more.
Thanks for having me.
See you,
Always.
Nate.
Nate Checketts, he's co-founder and CEO of Rhone, joining us here in studio. All right, everybody, you've been listening and watching Bloomberg Businessweek. Carol Massar, Tim Stenovec, and this is Bloomberg.